Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay, so it's a photograph of two people. It's a snapshot. It looks like it's in a classroom. Two people, you and another woman, are holding books, pointing at each other with the best expressions on your faces. And you have one of these faces that, like, your eyes are bonkers. Look at your eyes. You have the biggest smile. I love it. I don't know. Yeah, you're alive. You're definitely alive. But both in the photograph, you're both kind of looking at each other, having such a nice sort of expression. And what just happened that sparked that reaction in both of you?
So this was a picture. This picture was taken in January of 2020.
Okay.
And before the onset of the pandemic, up to that point, I was doing a lot of school visits. And we kind of mentioned earlier, I had mentioned something about my kids being in middle school. That was when I was writing the Missing series. Both of my kids are now in their 20s, grown up.
Wow.
They
Wow.
actually live on opposite coasts of the United States. One's in LA, one's in Boston area.
Wow.
So when they, now I have a lot more time to go out and do school visits. And this is kind of me being nostalgic for all the fun of just random things that would happen.
You're not wearing a mask.
It was such a treat. No, I'm not wearing a mask. And let me just say, this was before we understood. I mean,
It's
January
all fine.
2020,
It's all
kind of on the
good.
cusp there.
It's all good.
Yeah, but we were carefree. But this was just one of those random moments that occurred that wasn't planned. We hadn't designed this to happen, but it was actually in a school library. And I had just finished giving a presentation to a group of middle school kids. And this woman, the other woman who's in the picture with me, who is, we're both really hamming things up. She was a teacher at this particular school, taught language arts. And she came up to me and was just like one of those teachers that you just know the kids love. Just full of enthusiasm, full of life, like so much energy. And she was telling me how much she enjoys having writers in the school to talk about writing and being enthusiastic with the kids. And then she was describing to me how she does a dance probably more than once a year, but she has this dance that she does teaching the kids how to write. That there's here's the introductory paragraph dance. Okay. Here's the body of the essay dance. I mean, just really, I mean, you could tell she was a great teacher. And then she said, and this is my writers are wonderful dance. and so I said, well, then this is my teachers are wonderful dance, because teachers, none of us could do what we do without teachers showing us how to do it. And so we were just being totally goofy, but totally sincere at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because she was genuinely saying writers are wonderful. And I was genuinely saying, teachers are amazing. And we were just having so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just it was one of those moments. It was just joy filled.
I love it. No, so that's the core of the podcast is, we have one life and how do we make the most of it, right? And in your configuration of your mind and your experience and your expression and the stuff of writing is interesting, of being an author is interesting in the sense that you go into a room, close the door. You have your little ritual. You have however you write, be it on a machine or with a pen or however it is, and then you just sit there and you see what comes up and you capture it and you share it, and you have this, especially in your case, you're kind of writing for an audience that you're accommodating or you're projecting into, you're trying to understand, to sort of say, okay, what can I say in a way that really resonates with this mind that has reached a certain level of maturity? And then you kind of apply the brakes at some points, I'm assuming, or do you just go on intuition? Then you have this teacher who's hamming it up and who clearly has a theatrical way of communicating that obviously, for the camera. So you're both like, in a way, you're both kindred spirits as well. And what do you have to say about that connection in which on the teacher's side, she has to take material that's already presented or prepared and then make it alive for a student or for a younger mind. And then on the other side, you're somebody who sits in a room and maybe you just picture your children and you're just talking to them. So how do you connect what I've just said to your own experience and how you see the world?
I think all of what you said is true. I could just say, you're right.
No, it's not about me.
Just go from there.
Yeah, go from there.
I would say, kind of as a writer, there is that tension there. I think most writers think of themselves as introverts. I have met some who are very much extroverts, who would be just as happy to perform everything they do rather than, write. I think most writers are like, yeah, I want my little quiet room and I want to shut the world out and just tell my story and have fun with it and enjoy it. And then there is kind of that tension of almost that fear of then, do I want to share this with other people? What are they going to think about it? What will they say about it? Will it mean anything to them? I think that's the thing that most of us feel most insecure about, that if we're writing something and we're writing our heart and soul and getting it out there, and then nobody cares or nobody gets it, that's pretty brutal. Yeah. So writing is really frightening. And I guess that's one of the reasons I picked this picture, that it is one of those moments of celebrating that it is possible for us to connect as people. Mm-hmm. I think at heart of everything is that writing is communicating. We are connecting the innermost parts of ourselves with hopefully the innermost parts of other people.
Right. Okay, so what city are you in right now? Like, where are you right at this moment?
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio.
And if you want further detail, I am sitting in my son's old bedroom that my husband, like at the beginning of the pandemic, my husband jokingly started referring to as my TV studio, because I started doing, a lot of virtual school visits and library visits and all that kind of thing.
Of course.
So I'm looking around, and although we've cleaned it out some, I'm seeing his childhood bookcase and like his soccer trophies from when he was a kid.
Yeah. No. So what did your kids think of you? For example, at what point did the threshold happen when they said, "Hey, wait a second, this stuff that you're their mom, you're their mom." So they're like, they see you do the work, they see you do the revisions, they see you go through the process, and sometimes editing can be a real many steps back. So it can be. And because you're working on it with an editor to make it commercially successful, sometimes there's that back and forth. It's like I describe it as being like basically like making a new baby, because but sometimes by the time it gets out, you're just like, I don't want to even see it anymore. Although parents don't say that about their children.
Hopefully not.
No, hopefully not. But when your children would made that connection of, hey, wait a second, my mom, who sits in a desk, who writes out these books, her books are in the library. And what was your experience to see that, and to how do you experience that?
Well, it depended on the ages that they were. When they were in elementary school, it was definitely something that made them very happy. Okay. And they were very proud of me. I can remember when my son was in first grade, and all the fifth graders at their school were reading one of my books, Among the Hidden.
Wow.
And they knew that, that there were kids, that the author of that book, the kids went to their school. So it got to the point that, my son would be walking down the hall And fifth graders would be like giving him high fives and saying, hey, that's Connor Haddix. That's Margaret Peterson Haddix's son. And when you're a first grader and the fifth graders know who you are, that is really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, at that age, my kids were milking it, I have to say. And I hope not in an obnoxious way. We had some conversations about that. I think they were okay. By middle school, it was totally embarrassing.
Oh, really?
Because, in middle school, well, I know your daughter's younger,
sure.
And maybe she won't do this. Maybe it will be, maybe you'll skip this unpleasantness of this phase, but in middle school, you want to be your own person. You kind of want to pretend you don't have parents at all.
Mm.
And so it is really embarrassing that other people, A, know who your mother is, and B, think she's cool.
Sure.
that during, there was kind of a phase in middle school that my daughter actually, like, I would have their teachers inviting me to come in to speak.
Right.
And my daughter said to me, Mom, as long as I'm in middle school, please do not come in and talk about your writing.
That's awesome.
And I said, okay. I mean, that's fair, because they needed to develop their own personality, and they needed to be themselves, and they needed to be someone besides the daughter of or the son of.
Sure.
So we had that deal. And then kind of even into high school, like early high school, my daughter was wearing she was wearing a sweatshirt that I think was maybe, she was playing volleyball at that point. And so it said Haddix on the back. And some upperclassman said, hey, there's an author with that name. And she's like, yeah, I know. And didn't even say, yeah, that's my mom. Just was like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, dude. Hopefully
and then I mean, now they're grown up now. They've become who they are. They're fine with it.
Oh, great. Well, let's take that as the natural segue to the next photograph. Is that okay for you? Okay. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.